Cooperative Governance Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma says the culture of non-payment by ratepayers who owe large sums to municipalities is one of the reasons attributed to service delivery failures. Presenting before the NCOP yesterday, Zuma also said COVID-19 and the KZN floods, which were not budgeted for, have added a financial strain to the fiscus. She conceded that the inappropriate political and administrative interface does overspill into procurement matters, and that some of the people tasked to safeguard public monies are not the most appropriate for the job. Sysman Motloung is a researcher in local government and public services and a political science lecturer at the Northwest University, and he joins us now to unpack this for us. Mr. Motloung, a very warm welcome to Morning Live. Let me start with this. I mean, COVID-19 and KZN floods were cited by the minister, as challenges that led to service delivery failures. She said, even if the money is not stolen, but it's been redirected, to address the new challenges. What is your view on this, and to what extent do these disasters account for service delivery failures?
I think if we have to quantify or even rationalize lack of service delivery to disasters, it will be a misnomer. For example, this is KZN, and it happened after so many years. Before the disaster, we have to rationalize and argue that there was proper service delivery. And I want to think that before disasters, service delivery was already poor. Let's look into Northern Cape. Let's go to Mpumalanga, Northwest, Free State, Gauteng. There aren't disasters there, but services are not so good. For me, it goes to the level of saying government should have a disaster management fund standing to which they make contribution like an insurance fund over time. So when it's time for disaster, they know where to go for money. They'll only have to look for other sources maybe to supplement on what they have. For me, we cannot explain poor services to disasters. Maybe for now, they might have diverted some funds, but this is not a permanent incident. Yet it shows us something that we have to look towards the future where these disasters are now becoming a commonality. It now goes to government and policymakers to prepare such instruments for a long-standing disaster relief intervention.
To what extent do we then attribute some of the lack of service delivery to? Because one of the things that the minister says that most of people don't pay rates and owe large sums to municipalities because, due to unemployment. How much of that can we attribute to the lack of service delivery?
Definitely, the revenue generation is a concern that if it is low, municipalities cannot be sustainable and provide effective service because you have to get money to provide water. People argue that water falls from the sky in the form of rain. Now, why are you selling? But it takes money to purify and transport that water to our taps. Now, we hear ministers saying people are owing municipalities. In the previous year, I think late last year, we saw municipalities like Tshwane and Gauteng going after private companies, universities, state institutions or departments that were not paying for their services. So the issue of non-payment is generic. It behoves on government to have implemented revenue generation strategies across the board. It's not something you can blame on people. Here we say individuals. And on the part of individuals, it goes to the culture of non-payment, yes, but government not collecting, because you go in a township, the common explanation is that people in the township are poor, are not working, but there are good people who are earning, who have enough money in townships that they should have been paying. Municipalities are not going after them. Those who cannot pay, municipalities are not implementing their indigent policies to ensure they track the poor and enable them to be registered on the indigent platforms where they can be subsidies provided for them. So in a way, that is one thing. Listen to the minister. The other thing that she or that came up in those reports in the NCOP, where the revenue that goes to paying salaries. You see a particular municipality, 50% of the revenue, or about 56% of it, going to pay salaries. So it means they employ more people. The most money that is generated goes to paying salaries instead of providing services. It's a multiple factors, because there's also incompetency on the municipality where they are not servicing the infrastructure that they have. So if you're not operating your water properly, you're not maintaining your roads properly, it will lead to the service collapse. So those are multiple elements that contribute to poor services.
And another thing, the Auditor General also raised concerns in her report that, there's a 971 million on external costs for financial reporting in the past 5 years in municipalities. How much of that contributes to, municipalities not being able to provide proper services?
That's what we are talking about now. When you have 100,000 as a revenue generated by municipality, but for you to issue out your monthly bill, revenue bill, was a rate and payment statement where people have to know how much they have to pay. You outsource that service to somebody who will charge you 60,000. So you're already in a very low balance for you to provide services. So we see municipalities opting for outsourcing, and that is one element of saying they could be minimizing on HR and labor, but it's also an element of their lacking capacity in municipalities. The issue of capacity is a big problem, where people who have to work at a water service plant are not adequately qualified. Those who have to prepare municipal financial statements don't know the accounting approaches behind it. So it says to us, we have to look into those who are employed currently. To what extent are they qualified to do the basic services, the core functions of a municipality? Then we have to let go of those who are incompetent and employ young graduates who are qualified for this kind of services. So it's one thing of us having to go into that aspect. So outsourcing is a big challenge. It has its own reasons on why municipalities opt for it, for labor reasons, but it's not sustainable if it takes a lot of money away from what municipalities could have been using to provide services.
One of the other things that she also speaks about is, progress in some municipalities, under Section 100 in the Northwest. A report by the Auditor General as well, I think earlier this month, also indicated that, not a single municipality in the Northwest is financially stable. From what is, happening, how do we then fix something like that? Because already that money needs to go towards fixing it instead of being redirected to service delivery.
You see, the issue of capacity at municipalities, we have to look into aspect of if a municipality is collapsing and we want to issue an intervention mechanism. What happens from there? It's like a child who's under supervision. When the adults are there, they behave, and when the administration is gone, they resort to their misbehavior. So we have to look into municipalities on one to professionalize. Number one is to say the people who are employed at the municipality should know they're at work and they have some specific outcome they have to meet. There has to be indicators in terms of their performance. Say, today you must have delivered X and Y. And in a month, there have to be a review on that performance. Not to be at a municipality just to, sit and linger there because you are from a governing party, you are a comrade. You see the issue of a deployment, a cadre deployment. One municipality in the Northwest we visited for research, we were told that if you're looking for this, and the person was a senior manager, if you're looking for them, go to a Shisanyama somewhere. We were directed to a particular Shisanyama, and this is where we found the person during working hours. it's not professional. Public service is not professional because the people are employed are deployed by name and connection and so forth. Until such time we professionalize this and we know people are not performing, they get empowered. If not, you let go of them and bring in people who are working. That's one way of improving capacity. The other one, once we're talking about lack of revenue in municipalities, we have now to look into how municipalities cooperate with communities, that people who are able to volunteer certain services like unblocking a manhole in the township or in town. Isn't there somebody in the neighborhood who can do it? No, they are on a database with the municipality, they are collaborating, some approach in terms of collaboration. Otherwise, we see in the Northwest, some citizens are now starting to do things for themselves. Even in township like in Sebokeng, we've seen people starting to clean up and people are coming together to provide their own service. And if people now go that way, it now raises the question of what relevant is government for, because we understand that government should provide service. If it's failing on that contract, then we don't see the relevance of a local government. It says those who have money will survive through private services, and the poor will always be mostly affected.
Now, what is the role of COCTA? Because when answering questions on infrastructure, the minister said COCTA is not, responsible on implementing department, but coordinating department. It's not, that. What is it then?
Even if COCTA could, minister would say COCTA is coordinating, we have a municipal infrastructure grant coming from that department. As much as they release the funds, you cannot say to me, I'm coordinating, I'm bringing people together to host a party and I'm funding them. And how it happens, whether the party takes place or whatever happens there is not of my business, it's not my competency. For me, it's a cheap out, excuse. So we wanted to hear the minister being more accountable. We wanted to hear the committee holding accountable on that. So this is something we see in our parliament failing. We have a competency of COCTA being to coordinate that cooperative governance, ensure that the municipality is working, that provinces support or national also play a particular role in it. So we cannot say they have no role. She cannot say infrastructure is collapsing, then it's not our business. I felt a bit disappointed in her response in that regard.
And has Parliament also failed in its oversight, duties as well?
We saw when the president was talking yesterday how Parliament acted. Those officials who should ensure that the president is accountable, or the executive in this regard, we in my view, I would think South Africans are disappointed or should be disappointed in the quality of how government is providing oversight when municipalities are collapsing and Parliament, all it does is to listen to an executive, listen to supporting departments giving a report, and then they say, we are concerned. Like in Mfuleni, one report was saying, we are disturbed, we are disappointed that a worker died at the waste plant. We are disturbed that there's lack of checks and balances in procurement. The workers did not have uniform. If you release such a statement only, but you're not even to say we are disappointed in this government, in this executive, we want to recall the executive, there has to be some approaches. There have to be, I think Parliament should be putting pressure on law enforcement as well to start acting on misbehaviors in public sector or corrupt behavior in the public sector. We want to see a more strong parliament. We want to see, even though we know, according to the South African political system, that the dominant party in parliament is the one that forms government. Yeah. Now, in this regard, it's ANC in majority in parliament. That relationship of a ANC majority in parliament and an ANC-dominated government in the executive is a problem where we see comrades protecting their comrades. You know, we've had previously, when Gwetman was secretary, that you could not say anything you want to say in parliament. You have to get a mandate from your political party. That way we weaken government. It's something even myself I'm not so much sure on how to overcome, because it's political in the sense that one who is in executive should also enjoy majority support in parliament, and when they're in the executive they implement the political party mandate to some extent.
Yeah.
So I think maturity from those who are in parliament has to really reign, where they know that we are here not for brother, you know, but we are here to hold accountable as a matter of principle.
All right. Sysman Motloung, sir, thank you so much for talking to us this morning. He is a researcher in public services and local science, as well as a political science lecturer at the Northwestern University, talking all things local government.